1971. A family of 7 moves into a beautiful 18th century farmhouse in rural Rhode Island. They get it for a steal. Within days, strange things start happening. Clocks stop at exactly the same time. Unexplained sounds fill the house at night. One of the daughters starts sleepwalking and smashing her head into furniture. The mother wakes up covered in bruises. Something is in that house with them, and it's not friendly. This is the true story behind The Conjuring, one of the most successful horror films ever made. But how much of it actually happened? And was the real story even more disturbing than the movie? What's up, everyone? Welcome back. SiR.ReapeR here. The Conjuring terrified audiences worldwide and launched a massive horror franchise. But it's supposedly based on a true story, the case files of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren and the haunting of the Perron family. Today, we're separating fact from Hollywood fiction. What really happened in that Rhode Island farmhouse? Were the Warrens legitimate investigators or frauds? And who was Bathsheba Sherman, the witch who allegedly terrorized the family? Let's get into it. In 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved into an old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. The house was built in 1736 and sat on 200 acres of land. It was charming, historic, and affordable. The Perrons were excited. But according to their accounts, the paranormal activity began almost immediately. Andrea Perron, the oldest daughter, later wrote a trilogy of books called House of Darkness, House of Light, detailing what the family experienced. According to her accounts, the house was home to multiple spirits, some benign, others malevolent. The family reported hearing phantom footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, and the smell of rotting flesh appearing randomly throughout the house. Objects would move or disappear. The girls claimed to see apparitions, spirits of people who had died on the property over its 200-year history. But one spirit was different, more aggressive, more terrifying. The Warrens believed this haunting was caused by the spirit of a woman named Bathsheba Sherman, who they claimed was an inhabitant of the house during the 1800s and was said to be a witch. According to the story promoted by the Warrens and later Andrea Perron, Bathsheba had been a Satanist who sacrificed her infant child to the devil, cursed anyone who dared live on her land, and eventually hanged herself from a tree on the property. The movie depicts her as pure evil, a demonic witch who possesses Carolyn Perron and tries to force her to kill her own children. The family remained in the house for 9 years between 1971 and 1980, eventually selling it at the first opportunity following financial troubles. Think about that for a second. If your house was as terrifyingly haunted as depicted in the movie, would you stay for 9 years? That's a long time to endure demonic possession and nightly terror. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed was a self-taught demonologist. Lorraine claimed to be a clairvoyant and light trance medium. Together, they investigated thousands of paranormal cases, starting in the 1950s. They're the same investigators behind the Amityville horror case, the Annabelle doll, and numerous other famous hauntings. In 1974, the Perrons contacted the Warrens for help. The Warrens came to the house, investigated, and declared it infested with demonic presence. During a séance conducted by the Warrens, Carolyn was allegedly possessed and thrown across the room, her body slammed to the ground. Andrea and Cindy witnessed this terrifying event. But here's what the movie doesn't show you. Roger Perron kicked the Warrens out after this botched séance. He was furious. Whatever they had done had made things worse, not better. The Warrens were banned from returning to the property. So that's the story. But how much is actually true? Let's start with Bathsheba Sherman. Was she really a witch? Did she murder her baby and curse the land? The answer is no, not even close. Bathsheba Sherman was a real person who lived in the area in the 1800s, but based on facts, she appears to have lived a fairly average life as a hard-working farmer's wife. There is zero historical evidence that she was involved in witchcraft, Satanism, or infanticide. According to the Skeptical Inquirer, Andrea Perron could unclarify her sources for Bathsheba's backstory that appeared in her books, and later in the movie, close to everything regarding her nefarious character is actually fictional. Researchers have debunked the false stories surrounding Bathsheba, noting that the Warrens and Perrons are where these rumors originated, not local legend. Bathsheba Sherman was an innocent woman whose reputation has been destroyed by the movie. Her grave and headstone have been targeted by vandals for years because people believe she was an evil witch. What about the Warrens themselves? Were they legitimate paranormal investigators? This is where things get controversial. The Warrens investigated thousands of cases over decades and genuinely believed in what they were doing, but they were also heavily criticized by skeptics, scientists, and even other paranormal investigators. Critics accused them of exaggerating cases, fabricating evidence, and profiting from people's fear and vulnerability. The Amityville horror case, which the Warrens promoted as genuine, has been widely debunked as a hoax created for money. There's no scientific evidence that any of their cases involved genuine paranormal activity. Everything they documented could be explained by natural causes, psychological factors, or outright fraud. But the Warrens were charismatic, convincing, and their cases made for great stories. And great stories sell books, make movies, and build legacies. So did the Perron family actually experience paranormal activity? That's impossible to say definitively. Andrea Perron maintains to this day that everything in her books is true and that the haunting was real. Her family members have given interviews supporting the claims. But there's no objective evidence, no recordings, no photographs, nothing that proves supernatural activity occurred. What we do know is that the family lived in an old house with creaky floors and settling foundations, that they were under financial stress, that the mother, Caroline, may have been experiencing psychological issues, and that the Warrens had a vested interest in promoting dramatic haunting stories. The movie took massive liberties with the facts. The seance and possession scenes were dramatized. The timeline was compressed. The movie makes it seem like the haunting was brief and intense, when in reality the family lived there for 9 years. Bathsheba Sherman was turned into a movie villain with no basis in historical fact, and the Warrens were portrayed as heroic saviors when in reality Roger Perron threw them out of his house. The Conjuring is an incredibly effective horror film. James Wan is a master director who knows how to build tension and terror. But as a true story, it's heavily fictionalized. The real story is more mundane. A family moved into an old house, experienced some strange occurrences that may or may not have been paranormal, contacted controversial investigators who made things worse and eventually moved out due to financial problems. Not exactly blockbuster material. But here's the thing, whether or not the haunting was real, the Perron family clearly experienced something that traumatized them. Maybe it was genuinely paranormal. Maybe it was psychological. Maybe it was a combination of factors. We'll never know for certain. What we do know is that Bathsheba Sherman was an innocent woman whose legacy has been destroyed by unfounded accusations, and that's genuinely sad. So what do you think? Was the Perron family really haunted, or was it a combination of old house noises, imagination, and the Warrens' influence? Were the Warrens legitimate investigators, or frauds who exploited people's fears? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the true story behind The Conjuring, hit that like button. Subscribe for more horror deep dives and true crime, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.